Hello, this is Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson with you at the European Parliament in Brussels. Now, it's been an unseasonably wet and chilly month of May for many of us in Europe, certainly in France and here in Belgium. Well, something to focus the mind on our changing climate, perhaps, an issue that affects every single one of us, of course. Leaders of European Union countries gathered in Brussels just a few days ago at a summit where climate was meant to be a major priority. But the hijacking of a civilian Ryanair plane by the Belarusian state overshadowed talk of carbon emissions reductions and the industrial transition. In this programme, we're going to look at where the EU stands on climate issues and ask how big a priority they are in practice amid foreign policy and health crises. We have with us today two members of the European Parliament. On my right, we have Saskia Brikmont from Belgium, a member of the Greens group. Hello there.
Hello.
And to my left, we have Robert Roos, who's a Dutch MEP and Vice Chair of ECR, the European Conservatives and Reformists. Hi.
Hello.
So let's dive straight in. Saskia, I'll come to you first as a member of the Greens group. I just wondered to what extent you're frustrated to see Monday and Tuesday's summit overshadowed by other issues when climate was supposed to be the headline matter.
Well, I think it's normal that the head of state needed to discuss the sanctions against Belarus because what happened is a high threat to the EU and its integrity and the protection of EU citizens, but also foreign citizens on EU territory. So it needed to be groundly discussed, and I think we need to go further on the decision made on Belarus. But yes, of course, it's an issue that climate was not at the forefront because now we have to speed up. And the Commission needs to come in by July with a full proposal on how to realize the minus 55% of CO2 emissions by 2030. That's the target. And now it's how to get there that needs to be defined. And we see divergences between member states. So now we expect them to establish an action plan in order to reach the targets commonly, because we have no other option.
Well, let's talk specifically about that one target that you mentioned. There's a couple that they've signed up to, but the closest target, so to speak, is a binding EU target agreed last December by EU leaders of a net domestic emissions reduction of at least 55% by the year 2030 compared to 1990 levels. It's all quite detailed, but it makes sense when you think about it. That's 9 years away, Robert Roos. We're still in a pandemic right now. Is this specific target achievable?
Well, it will be very difficult, and that are not my words, but that is also said by Mr. Frans Timmermans. And it's only 9 years from now, and we have a lot to do. But to be honest, I think we have time. I think there is no problem. There is no climate emergency. That's just a political statement. It's not science-based. But if you want to achieve this 55%, then we have to change a lot of things that we are doing now.
So I'd like to come back on that. You said there's no climate emergency. What do you mean by that?
Well, that's just a political statement. It's not a scientific-based statement. It's just something from the European Parliament. So, well, there is a warming up of the Earth, but it's not. Well, there is no scientific-based evidence of emergency.
It's not just a European Parliament statement, it's a scientist statement. I fully disagree with you. The GIEC experts, so the international scientists for climate, agree on the climate emergency. And for them, we need to reach a higher target, 65% diminution of CO2 emissions by 2030. That's the target they set. And we at European Parliament level, we wanted to go further. Also, the Greens, aligning on the scientists' point of view, 65%. Parliament agreed on 60%, and the member states finally, at the end of the negotiations, convinced us to go for 55, because we have no other choice than to try to reach the higher target, because the emergency is there. And I think on a daily basis, we see the consequences of climate change on us here in Europe, but also on the global south. And this is really a question of social justice, to have a strong action on climate now, because all the investments that we have now will cost less for the future generations. So we have no other option than to act now.
So when you talk about action, Can you think of, or can you tell us a couple of specifics of what kind of action you're talking about?
We need to work on several issues. The renewables, so have more investments in renewable energy throughout Europe, but also working on efficiency, energy efficiency when it comes to public transport, when it comes to road transport, when it comes to buildings, because it's also an important contributor to CO2 emissions. And then we need a global approach, which is also expected from the Commission to come with concrete proposals on the carbon border adjustment mechanism in order to make the industry on both sides, so foreign industry importing, but also European industry contributing to the efforts. We also need a tax on kerosene, for instance, and to include the aviation sector in the emission trade system, because it's a big contributor that for now is not contributing to the global effort.
Well, Robert Roos, you're a member of the Parliament's Industry Committee. We heard European leaders at the summit talking about industry by industry analysis of accompanying them, so to speak, in their transition. That sounds like quite a smart way to go about things.
Yes, it's a smart way, but some businesses are very receive a lot of money already. The renewables, etc. Existing businesses have to change, and that's more difficult. But in the end, it's the consumer, it's the citizens of Europe. They have to pay everything, and that is something that is very important. It's not only the businesses, but in the end, the people have to pay for this, and we have to take that into account, because climate poverty is already a big issue in Europe.
How would you tackle that issue of the cost of this? Because, of course, you know, industry that already exists, updating it costs a lot of money.
Of course, and I think it's also an economic perspective to push the industry to transition to other technologies and energy consumption, because it's our economic future is depending on it, and the global transition will also bring new jobs and convert the old jobs in the old industry towards renewables industry, for instance, but also in the building sector, in many sectors that have to contribute globally. The EU also agreed on the Just Transition Fund, which is a fund that is supposed to help also the sectors to transition, to move towards better energy consumption.
Sort of subsidized,
but also towards small companies, SMEs, which also have to move the same way. I think the EU Commission gave a clear cap, a clear direction, thank you, with the Green Deal. And the Green Deal also has its industrial strategy. And in this strategy, it's also meant to work with the sector, with the industry, in order to reach the common targets.
I think it's a big economic risk that we take, and a big economic experiment, because it is not been proven that this will work. So,
in what sense is it a risk? Sorry.
Well, we are changing our economies, and the rest of the world is not following us. Europe wants to be the leader, and if it's not working, then we have a big problem, because our economic growth will produce money, and we can invest that in a better future. But if we are declining, then we have a real problem. We cannot invest in a better future anymore. So I think there is a risk.
What has been proven is that our current economic model is not sustainable, and that we cannot keep going as we are going now.
If we spend all this money, people's money, then the level we will achieve is reducing the climate temperature by Europe is only 0.02 and maximum 0.06 degrees. So it's a very small change, and it costs quite a lot of money.
Well, is the argument then that because other big emissions producers are not making similar dramatic changes, that Europe should not make them?
I think we should do that, but we should take the right decisions and not going into panic. And that's important. And also taking the good resources to produce energy. For example, biomass, for me, it's a scam.
Well, the European Union does have this COVID recovery package at the moment. It's a lot of money, 750 billion euros of grants and loans. And it's binding this together with a green transition as well as digital priorities as well.
Yes.
Perhaps an opportunity.
Well, it's an opportunity, but what I said, it's also an economic risk. Because if it's not working, then we have a real problem. And we can go back. That's why I'm very in favor to invest in nuclear. You know, that is a no-regret solution.
One last response to Saskia.
Yes, I think it's a very obsolete discourse, what I hear here, because we see in our regions that the transition is working. It's creating new ways of economic development, but also social well-being. So it's a full range of measures that have to be taken in order to change our economic model, which is not working anymore today. And the public spending, people's money, as you say, are currently used to subsidize fossil fuels, to subsidize the nuclear sector, which is not sustainable. So yes, through the national plans, it has also to be a greener investment.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. But I'd like to thank you both very much for taking part in this discussion, Robert Roos and Saskia Brikmont.
Thanks.
And thanks to you for watching as well. I'm sure we'll pick up plenty more climate topics to discuss in the weeks and months to come, but hope to see you soon on France 24.
Thank you.